I want to congratulate you with the release of the Lucius album. And I think I would say it's quite an album to start with. Can you tell me a little bit about the concept that's behind this?
Ooh. The very short version of the
very short version, because we had our first interview on Monday, and I think we talked about this. Well, on this specifically, we talked about the story for about 45 minutes, which was a bit overkill. So we're going to have to sort of tone it down today. Yeah, but please take the stand, Siegfried.
So it's essentially about Lucius, also the title or character of the album, in his quest for redemption. At the start of the story, Lucius dies by the hands of his sister accidentally.
But was it an accident?
And he ends up in the underworld, and essentially, after his death, something was taken from the temple where he died, which belongs to or kept the balance between the world and the underworld, essentially. And so the Nefret, so the title of the second song, is upset about this and wants the balance to be restored. So he sends Lucius back to Earth to restore the balance.
And he agrees because he thinks this is the way to redeem himself. So yeah, that's why he does it.
And so most of the series is essentially about Lucius pursuing this goal and actually trying to find his sister, who ran off together with Servidius,
the main antagonist.
The main antagonist of the story, who was behind the plot to disturb that balance and actually, let's say, trying to overthrow that balance and get rid of the Lord of the Underworld, essentially, because he did not agree with that balance and the way the world works.
Yeah.
And so
Lucius starts on this big quest. So this is essentially the story. The main story arc is about the overarching story is Lucius's quest and what happens on that quest, the places he visits, lays siege to, the people he meets, people who turn out to be traitors and things like that. So basically, that's what it is, and it all ends in a big fight at the end of the album.
The confrontation with Servidius, who's trying to get hold of the Titan to sort of use that as a vehicle to
seize power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hence the title of the series. The Titan Chronicles.
And so during that quest, it's all about also the morality, of course, because Lucius, being an undead character, essentially has to feed on human souls to restore or sustain himself, to gain more power. So he's actually, from his perspective, doing everything for let's say the best of mankind. But it's rather questionable if you look at the perspective of the main antagonist. He has a different perspective on the world, which is equally morally ambiguous, and so it's all about the different perspectives coming together in the end, and
a massive gray area.
Massive gray area, possibly both being equally wrong. Sort of.
It's that age-old question. Does the end justify the means? It was Machiavelli, was he right? I don't know. That's what this is all about, basically, isn't it? That's the central theme. Yep. Of this album. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how you think about something. It doesn't matter what your perspective is. In your mind, you're always doing the right thing. And there are a couple of characters who justify their actions by thinking that, I'm doing this, which may seem bad, but it's to achieve that. So that's what the story is about, basically. Yeah.
All right.
And it deals with other themes as well, like betrayal. We have treachery, love, brotherly love, sisterly love, romantic love. But mainly it's a lot of people get killed in this album. A lot of people get killed, and then I mean it's in keeping with we do make black metal, so
true.
it's never going to be sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. So
I think the full backstory, including then the story for part 1, which we still need to write and release.
Yeah.
It's about 60 pages. So,
but that's just a treatment. I think it was just a rough draft, wasn't it? Your 60 pages was just a rough draft.
Yeah. And there was just too much there to put in one CD, so we decided to start with part 2 and sort of in the blank universe later.
I was literally looking for part 1 because I was like, this is part 2. Where's
we're
part
doing it
1?
the George Lucas way. We're doing it the George Lucas way. First, the middle bit, and then we're going to release the first bit, and then at the end we're going to release the third bit. Hopefully.
And then people can discuss later what the right order is. Please, here to start part 2 or first.
How do you present it to your kids? Is it first part 2? Is it part 1? Yeah.
Well, gives them at least something to keep it talking about.
Oh yes, we could. I think we could go on like this for some time. Yeah. I think deep dives are not what you're looking for right now.
Just looking how to get the detailed story out there, because the lyrics is sort of snapshots from that whole story arc.
If you read the lyric, I mean, if you take the CD. Because it's only available on CD now, and obviously streaming services. But if you look at the CD, the lyrics are in there, and if you follow the lyrics, you get a gist of what the story is. But we haven't released the story yet. We're saving that for when we release a special edition with the vinyl, vinyl records in, with pictures, drawings. It's going to be great. But then in that version, we're going to make it into a sort of book. Cool. And then put the story in that. But the people who want to know, if there are any viewers out there who want to know, the outlines of the story, we've just told them, and they can read the lyrics. So it's pretty much, detailed in there.
Yeah, I saw you also had a lyric video for example, Nefret.
That was our first one.
Yeah, the first one. Can you tell me a little bit about this track? Because it seems to be quite centered. You had a single called that, the EP was called that, so it seems to be very central.
It's the start of it's actually the first song on the album, because you have next, apart from the overture sets the scene, as it were. It's like in a theater. It's like in a play. The overture sets the scene. The choir, because we used a Flesh and Blood choir for the album, they sing what precedes Nefret, and the song starts just at the moment, or just after the moment, where Lucius gets stabbed and he's falling down into the darkness, into hell, into the underworld, and that's where the song starts. And we had to choose. When you release an album, you have to choose singles. You have to choose. Which song are we going to start with? Which song are we going to present to the audience?
It's one of the shorter songs, which
it's also relatively short, because we've got there are a lot, and you've listened to the album. There are long songs on there, and it's also one of the more straightforward songs on the album, because there are other tracks on there that are very elongated. They're drawn out because they tell lots of storyline. They have lots of music in there, lots of variation. But this one, Nefret, is quite straightforward, relatively speaking. It doesn't have a pop song structure. I don't think we're ever going to make pop song structured songs. I don't think not intentionally at any rate. But that's the simplest one, as it were, and that's why we chose that one to release first. Because it gives quite a good idea of what to expect from the rest of the album. Because the way it's intended is to listen to the album start to finish. Right? Yeah, that's how we intend it. But you can't do that nowadays, because we live in a streaming world. We live in a world of Spotify and Deezer and iTunes and Tidal. So you need to start with small bites. So what do you choose? You choose not only straightforward, but you also choose the first track, and it sort of showcases what the rest of the album is going to be like. It has all the elements. The choir, the orchestra, the riffage, quite progressive. I think the chorus riff, as it's called, is quite leans towards Meshuggah kind of way.
Some influence there.
Some influence there, yeah. But it's you know, it's just a good track to get people warmed up. It's not over the top. It's not super intricate as far as the structure and the and the themes or anything else goes. But it's sort of just enough, hopefully, to get people intrigued, and that's why we chose that song to start with. It's a conversation between Lucius and Nefret. So Lucius dies.
No.
He realizes he's in the underworld. He tries to reason with Nefret, who's not to be reasoned with. But then Nefret realizes, as Siggy said just then, that something has been stolen from him. So they make a deal, and he's sent back up. And that's what Nefret is about.
Yeah. I think when I was listening to Dragonfall, which is a bit of a longer track, I really noticed that the song seems to take you to different stages. What can you tell me about this track?
Dragonfall is one of the longest tracks we have, and it also tells, and from a narrative point of view, it has the most contents.
Yeah,
a lot of things, a lot of stuff. A lot of events happen in that song.
It's also more or less divided into into three arcs, three large sections of the song. So, always hard to reflect on on music since it's.
What do you want me to do?
It's quite a long creative process, so it's
drawn out.
Yeah, sort of difficult to tell where everything.
Well, shall I do it? Go ahead. Shall I do it?
He's so eager.
He writes all this stuff. So it's hard to think, out of the box. But anyway, you mean from a musical instrumental point of view, or the story, the lyrical point of view?
Whatever you feel like telling, I leave that.
Oh,
up
right,
to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think Siegfried can tell us about the instrumental part, the musical part, but from a lyrical point of view, the story. The story starts with Lucius. He's on his quest, and he arrives at a city. He arrives at a city called Utdragor. It's called, and his sister, because he's after his sister, and her sister is under the influence of Servidius, which is the main antagonist here, and it's not good. The steward of the city is a follower of Servidius. And the song starts with Lucius arriving at the gates, and they have this huge dragon, which can spit fire to repel invaders, and that's where the title of the track comes from, Dragonfall, because at a certain point they do get inside the walls, and a siege, a fight breaks out, and the dragon head, or the dragon at the gates, is destroyed. So that's hence Dragonfall. So it's a lot of conversation. So from a lyrical perspective, we decided to incorporate narration, as an omniscient narrator tells the story as it were a book, and with it being sung lyrics, it's also interesting to put conversations, what the characters actually say. So we have conversations between Lucius and the steward, the steward of that city. I can't remember, was it Dovu? Iliad Dovu, yes. So there's a conversation between those two, and we always try to make a distinction between the different characters vocal wise, because I try to. When I'm doing the narrator or Lucius, I go deep. I use my grunts. And then when I go to the evil characters, the baddies in the story, I go for high screams. So
or heavy sound effects.
We used a few sound effects. Yes. Full disclosure, we did use a few sound effects there. For example, if we slightly jump back to Nefret, the grunts are the narrator and Lucius, and the high screams are Nefret. So if you listen to that track again, you'll see there is a distinction between the two. But back to Dragonfall. So there are conversations between Lucius and Dovu. The narrator tells the story of how the siege of Udragor proceeds. The fights here and there. They reach the catacombs of the city, and there they find a fallen angel, Asmael.
Yeah, which is linked to the title. That's part of the story of
Yeah. It's all interlinked. It's very intricate. It's very complicated. But they find the fallen angel there, and they have a conversation with that fallen angel as well. And the fallen angel actually warns Lucius about his gift, his curse, because she warns him that all is not as it seems, and you're going to have to atone for what you've done and stuff like that. And then Dorvu is joined by one of the Nefret's generals who's gone rogue, Dorgul, and he joins the fight to fight for Servidius, the bad guy, and Dorvu. And it turns out that the angel Asmael and Dorgul knew each other from before, and this is one of the elements that
actually one of the main story arcs that we're going to use in
part one. So the next one. So you're going to learn all about what happened there in the next album, part one. So at the end of the story, at the end of the song, Asmael and Dorgul they get into a fight. They battle again because at a certain point, Dorgul says to Asmael, "Angel, you and I, we meet once again. Are you prepared for another lesson in shame?" So that's literally one of the lyrics in Dragonfall. And but in the end, I think good prevails because he stabs him. He gets stabbed. So Dorgul dies in that song. And then once he dies, the rest of the city surrenders, and Lucius can move on. But his sister and Servidius have already escaped, so he has to continue his quest. So that's what Dragonfall is. It's really a very long, epic.
Maybe thinking about Dragonfall from a musical perspective. So it's probably quite a different song compared to Nefret. It's less straightforward and actually more written from the orchestral perspective. So most of the longer songs, I use the orchestra as the starting point and add guitars on top. I think in Nefret it was the other way around because it relies more heavily on
the guitars
and is more straightforward. But I think Dragonfall originated from primarily orchestral ideas. I think the main theme after the intro is I think the first part of the song that started taking shape. And the rest of the song was actually then primarily musical storytelling in long arches. For this case specifically, I don't think that the full story or which part of the story I was going to tell with the song wasn't set yet, I believe, while composing. It was only until sort of further down the line when several songs started taking shape that we started linking certain moods and atmospheres to
events.
Different events throughout the album. But of course, if you go over these very long, dramatic musical story arches and themes, it lends itself quite well to dramatic and epic storytelling. Of course,
that's what we're all about.
Because I think the choirs is also something that then lyric-wise started filling in later on based on once we had locked in, okay, this song is fitting for this part of the whole the whole concept, that we started putting pieces together. At least then when I was writing a Dragonfall in this case, with the later songs we already had more or less figured out what the story looked like and which elements we were still missing. But I think this one was primarily from a perspective of a symphonic orchestra, essentially with guitars and drums and bass included into it.
Most of the album starts from the orchestra.
Yeah.
Most of the that's what sets. I think that's one of the big things that sets ARTEFACTS' music apart from, I don't know, let's say
hard to tell.
Other bands that just they write guitar riffs and then they put the orchestra over that. In our case, it's the other way around. We start from the orchestra and then we build the guitar and the bass and the drums around that. So that's why it sounds quite symphonic and epic, because the core is the orchestra. It's not the guitar and the bass.
For some songs, it's literally the reason why there's like a 1 minute introduction to it, because that was just the first idea that came to mind, and then just like 1 minute of setting the scene before the ideas for the actual song start popping up. So I think what the songs sound like is also sort of part of the whole creative process that I usually go through.
Yep.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's if you listen to the album, there's so much to hear. I think
you need to keep your head with it. You know, you need to.
Yeah.
You can't. This is not. We don't provide bite-sized content or easily digestible content. You know, if you want to really enjoy what's on offer, you have to listen to it more than once. You ideally read the lyrics, and then when it comes to that, to read the story as well. Because we were thinking about this the other day. You can experience the album in different layers.
Yeah.
I think if you just like the music, fine, excellent. Listen to the music. Have at it. If you enjoy the lyrics or the vocal styles or whatever, do that. If you want to know even more, you can immerse yourself in the story, and you can even go further than that. So I like the fact, I personally like that, content that is layered. I love when I'm watching a film. For example, when I'm watching films geared towards children, this is something completely different, but when I watch films with my children that are actually geared towards children, like Pixar films, for them, they just see what they're meant to see. But as an adult, you see all the references and all the other layers and the themes and all that. So I like to think that people can enjoy our content in the same way. If everybody wants, can enjoy it the way they want, and if they want to go deeper, they can go deeper.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic altogether. Especially our crew discusses that a lot. Like, what do you hear first when you hear some music? Some people go for lyrics, some people go for music. Personally, I like atmosphere. That's something that stands out most to me in the music. So I think with your music, there's so much to hear that no matter what comes first, you can always find something to start with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I hope it's to everyone's satisfaction.
Well, I think we have time to talk a bit about one more song. Do you have one song you want to highlight, or?
Well, we released 2 singles, being Nefret and Augur, the Age of Darkness. And this song, Lucius is in dialogue with Servidius. They're at the temple. They've reached the Temple of the Titan. Servidius is just about to take control of the Titan. And this is actually what it all boils down to. They have a dialogue about who's actually in the right. They throw insinuations at each other. They call each other, treacherous, hypocrite. So we released that song, and it's also one of the more straightforward songs. Again, like Nefret, is also the reason why we picked that song.
Yeah.
It's also the most black metal song, as you could call it that way, because it has the most, it has quite, high tempo blast beats and riffing, as you would, for example, in a Dimmu song. So we released those 2. We're about to release the video for a 3rd single on the album. We have a video in the works of The Tower of Ustanshar, which is the 3rd track on the album, which is about a traitor who burns all his men alive in a tower. And we tried to put this on film. So from now on, we're going to try and do, when we make a video, I think we're going to try
any kind of content,
sneaking
parts of the story.
Yeah, we're going to try and sneak in parts of the story, and not just parts of the story, but narrative elements that are not in the story. So even more. So in the video, we put certain aspects, we put certain events that are not actually described in the story. So you get even more if you watch the video. The Path of No Return seems to be a fan favorite, as can we call it that, a fan favorite?
According to the choir.
Yeah, a fan. Well, not only the choir, but I've seen people online call it, because it's the most diverse. The Path of No Return is the most progressive song on the album, if you can call it that. It also features clean male vocals and female solo vocals. Because the choir's always there, but these are specifically clean solo vocals by one of our producers of the album, Tim van Doren, and Lucinda de Wachter. She sang on Path of No Return, and she also does that vocal solo on the last track. That was completely improvised, by the way, in the studio. That last track, it was completely improvised. So so instead of talking about just one track, I think I just went over everything else.
Pretty much everything else.
Pretty much the interludium, her brine and break. That's like kind of a sea shanty. So there's the album for you.
Sounds great. Some of the more obvious questions: where are we going to see you live?
Well, we just presented our album in Antwerp, Deurne, my hometown. His hometown too, but he emigrated. To the other side of Antwerp, to be fair, but still, he emigrated. We presented that here. We did that with a live choir, and we brought certain characters from our story to life. And if people want to see how that went, there are pictures online now, and there are video snippets online. We're going to try and do something, something substantial with that later, because we recorded the live tracks from the mixing panel, and we had other people filming it for us. So we're going to try and do something with that. Well, you'll see that something around that being released, in the not too distant future.
Yep. And the next shows, there's one in Kortrijk.
Yeah, we're going to Kortrijk in the west of Flanders, near the French border, this Saturday. In 2 weeks after that, the 6th of December on Sinterklaas, we're playing Charleroi in the French part of Belgium, and the French-speaking part, sorry. And I think after that, in January, we're playing in Ghent. But then that's it. That's all that's on the docket for now. So we're trying to get as many gigs as we can. We're trying to get gigs in the Netherlands. We're trying to get gigs in Germany. Trying to get gigs in France. So it's it's just as it always is for bands who have just started out. It's a bit you have to try your best and keep going and keep working at it. Keep chipping at the old block and see if it sticks. Keep throwing things and see if they stick.
All right. Last question then for the series. Do you have a Christmas wish or some wisdom that you want to share with the world?
A Christmas wish? Peaceful men. I don't know.
Without going too stereotypical.
No, yes, without falling into cliches. Yeah. A Christmas wish? Wow. This has got us stumped.
I think sincerely that whoever listens to this kind of for the next year can spend as much time as they can on just doing things they love and enjoy, together with people they like. I guess like try to generally just
isn't that the meaning of life? Isn't that the meaning of life?
Essentially, but people tend to forget.
Yeah. Hats. That's right. Monty Python.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So
do things you enjoy and hats.
Yes. Enjoy life. Enjoy art. which means music as well. Be kind to others, be kind to yourself. Yeah, I'm just thinking of what do I tell my students?
Good grades.
Yeah. No, I think that sums it up. You know, be kind to others and be kind to yourself.
Sounds like very nice. Thank you very much. And
no problem.
We'll hope to see you on the road somewhere.
Yes, we hope so too. See you later.
Bye.